Hello and welcome to another episode of the ICC Academy Livecast, a new podcast series where we take a deeper dive into global business trends and ideas. I'm your host, Thomas Paris, and in this episode, we will take a closer look at the global microfinance industry and how it's revolutionized developing parts of the world. Our special guest today is Sangeet Growar, Director of Tomorrow's Knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us, Sangeet. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, Thomas.
So before we get started, let's help our audience understand a little bit more about who you are, but more importantly, what Tomorrow's Knowledge does.
Okay. Thomas, I've been in the education industry for the last 20 years. And in Singapore, it's been 6 years now. Tomorrow's Knowledge was founded by Mr. Singh from Satin Creditcare Network Limited, which is the leading microfinance institution in India. This was founded with the objective of, converting the innate talent in the youth into a skill set for them so that they can earn a livelihood. Let me tell you a little about Satin Creditcare. Satin Creditcare is a public listed company. It's a microfinance institute in India. It's run by Mr. Singh. He's been in this industry for 30 years. We are listed with the National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. Mm-hmm. We have currently more than 10,000 employees with us. We are in 1,100 cities in India. We cover 3.5 million women. They come under our portfolio, whom we give out loans to. Mm-hmm. And if I look at the asset under management, it is currently $1 billion, which makes us one of the topmost MFIs, in India, because of the asset under management. Mm-hmm. So this is about the company. So Mr. Singh decided to form this Tomorrow's Knowledge in Singapore so that we could reach out to, the ASEAN region. Mm-hmm. And because I was here, he decided that let's create an education arm of Satin Credit. And plus, he's an expert in this field. He decided let's create a course also, which could be run through Tomorrow's Knowledge, and it could be given out to everyone across the globe who's interested in going through this particular, course. Mm-hmm. So that was his idea of creating Tomorrow's Knowledge. So mainly, this is the education arm. Tomorrow's Knowledge is the education arm of Satin Creditcare. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So as the director of Tomorrow's Knowledge, I'm very interested to know about your perspective of what it is that microfinance is in 2019, right? Because microfinance has been around for quite some time, but for the people who might not understand the nuts and bolts and what it's all about, how can you define microfinance for people who have no exposure to the industry?
I'll just simplify it for you.
Right.
As the name suggests, microfinance. Mm-hmm. So micro is the small finance or the small lendings that is given to the underprivileged or the underbanked or, the people who have, who don't have easy access to the banks. Mm-hmm. So these are small loans given out to the weaker section of the society. Right. So this is what we can, this is how we can define microfinance. And the best part about microfinance is that you don't need to give any collaterals for these loans. There's not much of paperwork involved. So the people who do not understand how to manage credit, it becomes very easy for them to take such loans. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the statistics, in 2014, the International Finance Corporation, which is under the World Bank, they came up with the statistics that the MFIs all across the world have covered 500 million people. And they also, came up with the study that 130 million people were covered by the MFIs. But they also felt that there are 3 billion people who come from the weaker section of the society who are extremely poor. So if you see, only 20% of the market is tapped by the MFIs. There's still 80% that needs to be looked into, who do not get any credit from anywhere. So there's a huge potential for MFIs, currently.
So these MFIs or microfinance institutions, how would you differentiate them in your own words from the traditional banks? I mean, obviously it's night and day in the way that they operate in the clientele, mainly clientele. For you, how would you differentiate them from traditional banks?
Okay, if we have to go to a bank, the first thing they would ask you is for a collateral. Very difficult to get a loan from the bank without a collateral. Whereas if you have to get a loan from an MFI, there's no collateral required. So that's a major difference. Right. Second, there's a lot of paperwork involved. With MFI, there's not much of paperwork involved. Recently, the RBI has issued guidelines that the people who go out into the fields, they should have handheld devices. People will just key in their KYC, that is, their identification, that's know your customer, and they'll be immediately granted a loan. Right. When the MFIs, the training officers from these microfinance institutions, when they visit the field, they have these handheld devices. The KYC is uploaded and immediately the loan is sanctioned. So there's not much of paperwork involved. Another difference is that when we go to the banks, the bank does not, educate us on the loans, It will not tell us how to do simple bookkeeping, or if we take a loan, how to manage our funds, or the various, the concept of cash flow, how to budget if we take a loan. Whereas MFIs take the responsibility of teaching you, the principles of cost management. They will teach you simple bookkeeping, simple accounting, how to budget, how to manage your debt. They'll explain to you, the rate of interest that you have to pay. What is the repayment policies, when do you have to make the repayments. So the people are educated when they take the loan. So these are the differences. There are 3-4 differences that I feel. Plus, banks do not reach out to the, underbanked, underprivileged, weaker section of the society, whereas MFIs are able to reach out to these people.
Right. And there are inherent differences with how connected they are regionally, right? Because these microfinance institutions, or at least the local offices, tend to be quite small, right? So it's not a larger group, so they can take the time with their borrowers. They can take the time and make sure that there is a long-term growth, because they themselves also live in the region, right? So they want to see it developed. So at its base level, what types of benefits has microfinance provided for the developing countries?
So when I look at the MFIs, I think they're really giving a lot of benefits to the underprivileged, underbanked people. They get an opportunity to create businesses through the credit that they get. Second is that they can have better, living standards for their family with this, amount that they get. And the stress, and sometimes we've seen that, people, it's not necessary for the people to take loans only for their businesses. They take it for the education of their children, or maybe for paying their bills. So what happens when they get a credit to look after, their other expenses, they're able to focus more on their work. And this way the productivity goes up. So there's no stress. So once they have the confidence that they're getting credit to pay their bills, they are able to focus on their work. And that's how, they're able to repay us also. Another benefit that I see is that women get a chance to get empowered. So in our company, there are 3.5 million who benefit from the loans that we give out. We don't give loans to men. So we have 3.5 million women. Wow. So we have empowered 3.5 million women in India by giving these loans. Another thing that we have seen, this is a sustainable process. Now, how is it a sustainable process? If we look at the ticket size of the loans, it's from $100 to $1,000. Now, why we say it's sustainable? Because if you look at it, $100 for us is nothing. We would spend $100 on a dinner when we go out. But for somebody from the weaker section of the society, when we say they're extremely poor, and as the statistics say, extremely poor category is when you have only $1.25 coming into the house. and that is called extremely poor. So when these people get $100 as credit to start a business, it's quite a lot for them at that point. And why it's a sustainable process? Because it's essentially a forgettable amount for a microfinance company. So when big investors, when they're investing for this credit to be given out, $100 is a very small amount, and most of the time, these loans are covered by the high repayment rate in the MFI and the high interest rates that are there. So if there are any defaults, that is quite less. So there's another statistics which says that the repayment rate in a microfinance industry is 98.5%. So you can see the non-performing asset is only 2%.
Wow.
So what is the reason that these people repay us most of the time? It's because they are from the weaker section. They feel they've got a credit. Now they should not ruin their credibility, because then they will not get a loan again. So they're very, very careful. They're very conscientious in repaying, because they see that by getting this credit, it's improving their living conditions. And if they default, they will never get an opportunity again to get this credit. So that is why the repayment rate is the highest in MFI, higher than even the banks.
Interesting.
Yes.
And is there a certain pattern to the ones that don't get repaid? Is there a specific reason, or is there a specific type of project that is maybe less successful than the others?
So I wouldn't say it's the project that's less successful. Maybe, the place, the village gets hit by a calamity because of some natural disaster. That may be the reason that, we may not get the payment back from these people. And there's also, we follow the joint liability group method, through which, 5 to 10 ladies, they come together, they form a group, and they take responsibility of that group. So that also, there's peer pressure to pay back through the joint liability group. So we don't give loans to individuals. We form a group and we give loans to those groups. So there's a joint liability to pay up then.
Right. Yeah, no, so it's a collaborative approach.
So the reasons for non-repayment could be, maybe death in the family, probably some, natural disasters, which prevents them. The business didn't, pick up because of that. Otherwise, we don't see any other reason, unless there are community clashes. There's a pressure from the government, probably some opposition is trying to,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how has, sticking on the same topic of the benefits, have you seen an impact from these smaller loans when it comes to things like healthcare or climate change?
Okay, so I remember this quote from Mohammed Yunus, who's the founder of Microfinance. He says credit is a fundamental human right. Okay, he feels that everybody should have access to some credit, because if they want to grow, and for us, it's very easy for us to grow because we have a buffer with us. For a very poor person, he doesn't have anything. So if you give him credit, if he doesn't have anything, then the other things don't matter to him. Sanitation or, health, or those are not his issues. His issue is to just get a meal on the table for his family. But the moment he has access to some credit, he gets an opportunity to grow. Then his focus shifts from just earning to looking after his health, to having a more cleaner drinking water. So these things then come into focus. So
when you move past survival, then
So from just the survival mode, you start thriving. Then you shift from survival to then thriving. So that is how we look at that. If the moment somebody has that basic credit to grow and make a better living for themselves, then the focus shifts from just earning a livelihood to other things like looking after your health, looking at the sanitation part, going beyond the basic needs.
And what have been some of the unexpected negative impacts?
Okay, I see more of benefits of MFIs than negative. I can only think of two negative impacts of MFIs. One is when people don't repay the MFIs, then these MFIs use a coercive action to get the money out from these people. So maybe that's one of the negative impacts that I can see. And the second is that refusal to give credit because of some assessment methods, because these institutions, they use some assessment methods to check the intention of repaying the loan. So sometimes these people are refused the loan. And that is the second negative impact that I can look into. But I see more of benefits of the MFIs than the negative.
Right. Well, I mean, the refusal of the loan is not necessarily negative in the sense where if they were never going to pay back.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's a good thing that they wouldn't have processed the loan in the first place.
So we have developed a psychometric assessment where our training officers, when they are in the field, so they do this assessment, and this is just to know the intention of the client to repay back the loan or not. And then there are areas also where we feel that the repayment rate is less. Then we take this psychometric assessment of both the husband and the wife, and we get to know whether the intention is there to pay back or not.
Well, the process seems to be working with a 2% loss. I think it's quite low. So it's, at least the process seems to be working.
Yes. But there are some regions where the, intention is not to repay back. And that's where the refusal is there.
Right.
So I don't know if that's negative or not, but negative for the individual who's refused a loan, yes.
Yeah, if you look at it through that prism, then it's a little bit negative for them, but maybe not so much for the institutions themselves. Right. New tech, like mobile banking, has provided more inclusive banking solutions. What innovations are Satin and Tomorrow's Knowledge looking at for microfinance over the next few years?
Good question. Okay. So Satin is already using handheld devices in the field when they give out the loans. The chairman has recently come up with a psychometric assessment tool wherein we get to know the intention of the client to repay us or not. And that's one of the exciting tools that have been, that's one of the innovations of Satin under Mr. Singh's leadership. And this psychometric assessment test is also used in those regions where the default rate is high. And there it's used on both the husband and the wife to know their intentions to repay us back. So this is already there with us. Now, Mr. Singh is coming up with another innovation, and his team is going to be using AI, artificial intelligence, to develop a device where when people load their KYC or the identification cards, it would tell us whether it's clear or not. Sometimes it's faded. Sometimes there's some wrong information in the document. So it will detect that and tell us whether the document is clear or not. That is one. Second, they're going to use AI in making the transactions cashless. Currently, there's a lot of danger when these officers, they go to the field and they collect the cash. There are chances of thefts, and the chances there have been thefts, and they've been robbed. So making this into a cashless transaction will ease out our dealings in the field. So what I've got to know from the IT team is that they're going to use the biometric scan. That means when the client does the biometric scan on that device, he's giving us permission to withdraw cash from his account to our account. So this becomes a cashless transaction. And then the chances of theft goes down. In fact, becomes negligible.
Right.
Yes. So this is what our IT team under the leadership of Mr. Singh is developing and will be launching it very soon.
So implementing something that would be cashless would require the borrowers to have bank accounts?
Yes.
Okay. So that is going to be built off of a traditional banking model where they would also need to ensure that they have bank accounts to be able to receive the funds.
Yes.
Okay. And is that something that you see as a challenge in certain parts of the world where they might not already have bank accounts?
Probably.
Right.
But even if it's,
Right.
90% cashless,
Right.
then, still,
Of course. No, it's it's a step in the right direction.
step in the right direction,
Right.
yes.
Okay. So going back to tomorrow's knowledge proper, how has education been playing a key role in demystifying microfinance? Right. It's been around for a long time. Many people don't know much about it because many people who need it are usually seeking it out, and the people who don't have no reason to. What has been the impact so far?
So tomorrow's knowledge is quite new. So I wouldn't talk of any impact by tomorrow's knowledge at this moment. But Satin has been there for 30 years. And so Satin has used education actually to, demystify the concept of MF that is there in the market, that microfinance institutions are only there in the market to make profit. They're not for the benefit of the people. This is the general, concept that goes around. So what happens when now, people go out in the fields before giving out credit? They educate the people that, the credit that you're getting, how it's going to benefit you, how you can budget it, how you can repay it. It's not like the banks where the banks require, collaterals from you. They need huge project reports for your business ideas, and you're not even sure whether you would get the loan or not. So this is how, and bank never teaches you how to do bookkeeping, how to do basic accounting of the credit that's given out to you.
Yeah, they don't work on the same scale.
They don't work on the same scale.
When they have
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of potential
So so MFIs are actually going beyond their role of just giving credit. And Satin makes sure that before it gives out the loan, it understands the business idea that is there, with that person, explains to them how much to take, sometimes people feel that they need a little more, but maybe the business that they want to start may require less. So all that education is given to these people. And we go beyond what the banks do. So Satin has done a lot of work, and having 3.5 million women under your portfolio,
right,
shows that there is an impact that you've actually created on ground, because these people keep coming back to you, and when they come back to you and then they get more people, that's how the number increases. Yes, so that shows the credibility of how you have created impact on ground, and you have changed the whole idea about microfinance. This is what Mr. Singh's vision has been, that before I give out credit, I must let them know why this credit is being given out and for what purpose, and how it can benefit them, how they can budget it, utilize it, and finally repay it back.
Right.
Yes.
And how has this training been taking place for the MFIs up until this point?
In the last so many years, he has been, telling his field officers to go and educate. Then he realized that why not I make it more structured, more focused, have more people learning about this, take it globally. And that was the reason he decided to get into partnership with ICCA and form a course, so that, a course which is formed by an expert, the one who's in the field, who's, seen it in the last 30 years. When he writes a course and gives it out, that should hold more value than what is available in the books.
Right.
We are offering you real-time case studies from the last 30 years, the success stories that we have had. So all that is coming on the table with this course.
So Satin has been, up until this point, doing traditional training when it comes to sending out, like you said, the field agents to try and do, one-on-one, group training in certain parts of the world. So the reason that, we're even sitting here now is because, we both saw an opportunity in sort of standardizing the approach. Right, which was spearheaded on your side, of course, because you being the experts in the field, and for us with the academic angle, is that we feel that this would be beneficial to sort of approach the training for microfinance institutions, given the scope, right? When you have 140 million unbanked clients in the world, right? There is a need to make sure that everyone is at least educated on loans in more or less the same way. And to do that, you need to make sure that the actual providers are also educated in a standardized way. So that is one of the projects that the ICC Academy is working on with Satin and with Tomorrow's Knowledge. So we're very happy about this. We think that this is going to be very successful, and it's very good to be able to have this conversation to sort of understand the context of what microfinance is, and also the impact that it can have, not just on a regional level, but on a more macro, and then also why the ICC Academy is in this space in the first place. So unfortunately, we do have to start wrapping up. Do you have any other closing thoughts?
Yes, Thomas. Like I mentioned earlier, the statistics from the International Finance Corporation, that the 80% of the market is still not tapped by the credit market. I mean, the financial products are still not available to the 80% of the weaker section of the society. So our intent, or our objective is to actually look at that market and work towards having financial inclusion by providing more financial products to those people, and give an opportunity for those people to come up from that $1.25 category. And the moment they go from 1.25 to even earning $2.30, it has been observed that people start saving. It may not sound much for us, people who have money in the banks, but for those people, who are earning $1.25 or even $2, they are under this extreme poverty space. And the moment they get an opportunity through credit to rise above that, they start saving, they start having better living conditions, they start educating their children. Okay, so we, as part of the, MFI, we feel it is our duty to provide as much credit as we can to the people who don't have access to this. So there's a huge market, and for when we develop this course, we are allowing the existing professionals, because every bank has a department which is into micro lending. So the existing professionals can learn from the experts who are in this field. Then the junior, middle, or the management level people who are planning to get into this particular industry. The induction cost for the company goes down when they have people who have already done this course, when they join them. Then for the self-help groups, when they become SMEs, they are dealing with microfinance institutions, so they also learn from this course how to deal with MFIs and how to get more credit when they do this course. And for NGOs who are in direct contact with the people from the weaker section of the society, when they understand the concept of microfinance, they're able to deal better. So it's an advantage to everybody who's in the financial sector. And it's a huge market which needs to be still looked into.
No, this is great. I mean, it's an important topic, and I'm glad we got a chance to sit down and talk about it.
Thank you, Thomas.
No worries. No, thank you again for your time.
It's a pleasure to partner with ICCA and launch this course. And I'm sure a lot of students who are looking into the financial sector will get an opportunity to do this course and maybe get into the microfinance part of financial services.
Yeah, we look forward to having it hit the market, and thank you again for making the time, and also for the last few months. I've been working together and working hard.
A lot of hard work put in by ICCA and you. Thank you so much for that. Yes. Thank you. And I would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Singh, for giving us the opportunity to get this course online for us, because it's his experience that's actually coming out in the market. We are using his experience to teach to the students how they can enter into this industry. So thank you so much for that. And I would also like to thank Dr. Suryavanshi, who's done a lot of research and given us inputs for this course.
Yes. So I hope we've at least piqued your interest when it comes to microfinance, and we hope that you'll check out both Tomorrow's Knowledge and Satin, and also come back with the ICC Academy to check out the course once it goes live. We'll have a demo up fairly shortly. And as a reminder, we are hosting these live webinars every month. So sign up on our website for free and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the ICC Livecast. See you next time.